everyone, it's Maha. So last week's video was a little heavy, and today I thought I would change things up a little bit and do a more fun, lighter video and share with you some of the decks that I've been using recently and that I plan to use for the month of September. So since I've been going through some of my own personal stuff recently, I've noticed that I'm gravitating towards decks that are more nurturing and supportive. And since we are right now in the month of September with the theme of Self-Love September, I thought it would be a good time to share these decks with you. I have 5 decks here, 4 Oracle decks and 1 Tarot deck. So I'm going to start with the Oracle decks. And I'm very excited with this first one because I just got it very recently. The Soulful Woman Guidance cards by Shushann, Movassian, and Gemma Summers. And I could only pronounce Shushann correctly because I used to have a friend named Shushann. So yeah, I got this deck probably 3 weeks ago or so. And I'm just so excited because this deck is gorgeous. Like, the cards are amazing. They're just very colorful, and I'm really drawn to colors right now, I've noticed. So all these decks kind of have that potent color to them. I'm not going to show you too many of the cards. I just want to show you these decks really quickly. So, wow. Feminine Law of Attraction. These guidance cards are great because they have an affirmation on the bottom, and I really love the keywords, actually. I'm very picky with Oracle decks, I've noticed lately, so I don't buy them too often. I'm buying more tarot decks now, but the artwork here is just so inviting. The flow of partnership, the ebb and flow of a relationship takes me where I need to be next on my path. I find that these cards are they have a positive vibe to them, yet very realistic, following my truth, and things that I need to focus on right now. Savoring the positive. Things like gratefulness and finding the magic in everyday life. Fearless self-love. Yeah, these are decks that I would recommend for self-love. And the artwork is just so joyful, infinite self. I mean, just going through the cards, wow, this is gorgeous. Asking opens a pathway. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. And there are a few different artists in this deck altogether. Oh, this is another one of my favorite cards. Shining bright. Really bright colors here. And boundaries. This was definitely a big lesson for me recently because of what happened. I've been really focusing on establishing boundaries with certain people in my life. Listening to my body is another lesson that's been very pertinent for me as well with what happened to me recently. The power of self-talk. So yeah, this deck has a guidebook that it comes with. It's really nice, and it just looks like just enough information here to work with. And it's hot here. My next 2 decks are decks that are not very common, and I haven't really heard people talk about these decks in the YouTube community. The first one is called Ascension to Paradise, and it's a bird deck. It comes with this really thick guidebook, very solid, juicy guidebook. And I have done a video on the sister deck to this deck, which is called Bird Cards. I think I've done a couple of videos, and I even talked about it in some of my other videos. I just absolutely love bird cards. I find that deck to be very grounding, very centering, very getting you back here, you know, very earthy. Even though it's bird cards, you know, with the feathers and the element of air, there's that sense of coming back to what's happening around you, that centeredness. And then with this deck, I feel like there's a little bit more of an elevation from the earth to the higher mind, higher realms, more spiritual deck. And okay, first, I love the backing of the cards. It's really feather. I love feathers. It's purple, one of my favorite colors. And so the artwork is just stunning. I mean, it's like really colorful, and the artist whose name is, okay, so this deck is by Jane Torien and Joyce van Dobben, and I believe Joyce is the artist. It's from South Africa. The book is amazing. Anyway, it's just amazing. It gives you affirmations. It talks about the cards. There's a lot of history and mythology of the birds, if you're interested in that, and also just biological facts, things, just little things that teach you about the birds and their habitats. Not all the birds are living right now. Some of them have gone extinct, unfortunately, which is really sad. So you're working with the energy of the birds. There's kookaburra. This is I believe, Australian bird. The birds are drawn with so much emphasis to detail. There's a lot of symbolism. There's use of crystals and colors and flowers. She talks, like, right here on the mountains, there's 2, I think, amethysts, and maybe that's an emerald, and that looks like a ruby. So birds are connected. The birds are connected to the way the creators have made this deck. The birds have a connection to minerals and plants, which is one of my passions. And I really believe that, for me, the way I see birds, I see their energy being very, very connected to nature, to more specifically to flowers. So there's a lot of color and a lot of flowers. Here we have, I think that's rhodonite. This is barbet. So in this deck, the Ascension to Paradise, there's a lot of birds that you normally or typically don't hear of. Not very popular. Brolga. So, and then in the bird cards, there's more ordinary birds or common birds like pigeon and rooster, birds that you've heard of, but in this deck specifically, they are birds that we haven't really heard of. This is bee eater. So yeah, look at that. There's the bird is perched on the constellation. You can see the stars like cosmos, and then there's the honeycomb, and so there's a lot of layering. The artwork is just phenomenal. I mean, I can just imagine the amount of time that this artist has taken to work on each image with pencil crayons. They're drawn with pencil crayons. Flycatcher. Great use of color. And I know I used to do a lot of drawings with colored pencils, and it's not easy. It's a lot of work. White eye. And this is a deck that's been very... I use this deck in the mornings, and it's just uplifting. It's very uplifting. It has really, really great energy. Really, it's really alive. Moorhen. So for those of you who are anti-borders, you're probably not going to like the borders of this deck. I drew the mockingbird many, many times. So some birds you're going to recognize, but many are birds that you haven't heard of. I love this one. Trogan. So graceful. Love the moon down there. Looks like the moon card. And this one I kept drawing this many times. Frog mouth. and it's about transformation. That's the general message of this deck. I also used this deck a year and a half ago when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, and I was kind of going through really hard times, and this deck just kind of uplifts you. The birds are, it's almost like the energy of the birds is just so tropic bird. So I don't want to say, I don't know what the right word is, just connected to divine. To me, that's the energy I get from birds in general, but buzzards. And you know I'm a bird person because I have a parrot. So anyway, this deck is for bird lovers and also non-bird lovers who are just interested in working with bird energy. And also I just think it's just so beautiful. It's just, the artwork is gorgeous. Jacamar. So beautiful. Look at that. There's just layering, and I just love that bird. Anyway, oh gosh, yeah. I could just look at each card with you and spend a whole video on it. And I wanted to make a video on just this deck. I haven't gotten around to it, but it will be done at some point, I hope. So the next deck is one that isn't very common either, that I haven't heard people talk about, and it's called The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. And this is based on a book that she's written a while ago called The Language of Letting Go, and it was a book, I think, more geared towards the 12 Steps program and AA, and just helping with addictions. And I find that the messages of this deck are very affirming and very helpful for me right now. The artwork is so-so. I mean, it's very kind of, it could be kind of kitsch. It's very simple. But it works. The colors are really bright. So the cards come with a writing at the back, an affirmation at the back. So these are just kind of like daily affirmation cards. Okay, so one thing is that there's a use of the word God repetitively in these cards. So if you're someone who doesn't want a deck like that, something to keep in mind. For me, I just take the message and I just kind of gloss over the word God, and I just add my own from the perspective of what I believe in. So here, I'll show you some of the cards. Releasing fear. So that's what I mean. Compared to the Ascension to Paradise, this deck is very simple. The artwork is very simple. Learning discipline. Showing vulnerability. This one helped me when I was going through a lot of anxiety once. Acting as if. Staying neutral. I mean, the artwork is, it's nothing to be, doing any path working with. Not to me at least. It seems too one-dimensional, too plain maybe, but it works for what it is. It does what it's supposed to do. Letting go of panic. I think I like this one. I like this image. Making time for meditation and prayer. Okay. I kept getting the card patience, and that's what I needed to hear, but it was really hard to acknowledge it. Acknowledging my desires. Feeling good. Okay, so I want to read you one of the... Okay, so loving myself unconditionally. I like that one. Approving of myself. I like that one. Moving through discomfort. Let's read this one. Moving through discomfort. Today I will face discomfort, trusting that feelings of healing and release are on the other side. Okay, so here's where the word God comes in. Help me, God, to feel whatever I need to feel to be whole and healthy. While I'm doing this, I will trust that I'm cared for and protected by myself, my friends, higher power, and the universe. So it does, I mean, God is not mentioned in every single card. It's just some of the cards. And my fourth oracle deck is the Mother's Wisdom deck. The Mother's Wisdom. It came in a big box. And this is a deck that was created for mothers. And the way I use it is I use it to teach myself to be the mother that in some ways I felt, the mothering that I felt I didn't have in some ways as a child. So instead of reading the book and applying it to me as a mother, which I'm not, I don't have children, I apply it to myself, like mothering myself. The book is great, and this deck is by, who's it by? Oh gosh. I'm going to write it in the description menu. It's good because the book has like an element of shadow in there, keywords, picture. It's a great book. I like it. I worked with this deck actually last year for Self-Love September at around this time, and I find that I'm drawn to it again this year. So I haven't worked with it yet now, but I really like the way it's structured. It has the 4 elements, I believe. There's reviews on YouTube you can watch about this deck. Pearl, I love that. And there's a lot of goddess energy in here, turtle, animal energy. I like the artwork. It's simple. It's still very star. I love that one. I haven't drawn this one before. One card that I worked with, I mean, there's a lot of goddesses in here. There's Amaterasu, there's Kuan Yin also, I know, and Isis, which I showed you. Oh, here she is. Beautiful card. I showed you this last year in my self-love video, and when I was talking about acceptance. And anyway, lots of beautiful goddesses and owls and mythology. You can learn a lot from this deck if you're interested in mythologies as well. Curandera. I love this one. I drew this one last week. So there's goddesses from different cultures, which I really like. Cross cultures. Lady Godiva. Beautiful. The artwork is really beautiful. It's not too complicated. Monkey. So there's animal energy. Oh, I just thought monkey, and it's monkey's holding a key. Oh my gosh, what a cute monkey. Okay, so then my last deck is a tarot deck, which is Le Tarot de Femmes Erotiques. Le Tarot de Femmes Erotiques. Beautiful deck, and it might be surprising to some of you that I've chosen this deck to work with right now for self-love, but I think this is a deck that helps me to connect with my own body image. And last week when I made the video, the topic was body image, and so these women have these are basically, the deck has images, photographs, black and white photographs, sepia toned photographs from vintage photographs. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, the images are beautiful. And what I notice is that the body image is the women who are depicted here are not like skinny models. They have all kinds. There's all kinds of women here, and I should have warned you, there's nudity if you have children watching, and if you don't want them to see naked ladies with their boobs, turn this off. So yeah, to me, that's kind of useless to say, because this is art to me, and there's nothing wrong with showing a beautiful woman's body. But anyway, yeah, so this deck allows me to appreciate the female body in its many forms, in many shapes, and that the body doesn't have to be perfect. And you notice that with the vintage photos, even from not very long ago, that the roundness and the flat chest and all of that is okay. One thing this deck always reminds me of is when I used to live in Paris. I used to live in Paris about 8 years ago, and there is a river there that's called La Seine, runs through Paris, and there's these kiosks, like green kiosks lined up, and they sell prints and all kinds of stuff, but they sell actual vintage photos just like these ones, just like the ladies featured here. And I wish I had bought a few because they were so cheap, actually. I would love to have one framed, So this deck, I think, for me, has been helpful in becoming comfortable with the nude, even more comfortable with the nude female body. And this is just, as a side note, again, this is going to be rambly probably. I didn't expect that, but beautiful. I love the interplay of veils and the female body. So I think that in North America, especially because I've lived in different parts of the world, I've been fortunate enough to live in different parts of the world, and I've experienced that the female nude, or just being in nude, male or female, is so much more of a taboo here than it is in many other parts of the world. I always talk about the fact that I go swimming a lot, and whenever I'm in the changing room, when I'm undressing and dressing, if there are any children, any young girls, even teenage girls or even a little bit older, in the changing room, they are always so almost freaked out to see a naked female body. And I find that always so surprising, because I remember when I was living in France, or when I was living in Portugal. Well, France is a different story because they're just comfortable about the body so much, to the point that in the swimming pool, the changing rooms were actually unisex. So there was actually men and women changing at the same time in most changing rooms. Most, not all. But when I was living in Portugal, young girls were totally comfortable being naked around other ladies. And I remember when I was a kid in Iran, when I was growing up, my grandma would always take me to the hammams. The hammams are like bathhouses where they're ancient Arabian concept, where the woman, it's men and women are separate, and women just go there and just go into steam rooms and bath and wash themselves, and it's all about water, healing by water and cleansing. They're really into being clean in that part of the world. They actually invented the steam sauna. So in the Middle East. So I remember when I went as a kid, my grandma was naked, all the ladies were naked, everybody was naked, and it was fine. So I feel like here, and I've lived in North America for the larger years of my life, I feel that there's a lot of tension when it comes to being naked. And I wish it wasn't this way, because what's more natural than the human body? I'm not saying that everybody should be running around naked, but just looking at photos like this, they are, to me, very beautiful. And Yeah, I love how normal, quote unquote, the bodies are in these women. That they're just exposed, but they're normal. You know, they have a little bit of belly here and there. They have little tiny breasts. And they are cute and they love it. And, you know, they don't have to be a certain way. So this deck helps me, and I think it will help for those of us who want to work more intimately with the feminine energy and to be more comfortable in your own body, accepting your own shape, however it is, having a little bit of, you know, roundness here and there, and just loving your body. I think this is a really great deck for that. And I think I'm going to end this video right now. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please let me know what your favorite decks are this month. And if you have any special decks that you want to use or you're using for Self-Love September or for self-love, let me know. I'm interested in reading your comments. And as always, everybody, I'm sending you lots of love and many blessings. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.